here's an example of a sign that I'd already made. Today's I'm going to make it a little bit different. As you can tell, I have some different greeneries. I have a text on here and some different accessories on. It's very convenient if you end up having a stencil. Today I'm going to be using this Hello fun little cursive stencil, but feel free to freehand or whatever you feel comfortable with. So first we're going to begin by painting the background. You can use whatever colors you want, but for the sake of this video, I'm going to be using black and white acrylic paint. And I'm going to do a design where I'm going to keep the natural wood at the bottom, but I'm going to paint the top part black. And then I'm going to do white text using my stencil. What's nice about this wood is that you don't have to put on your acrylic paint thick. So actually the thinner you put it on, the quicker it's going to dry. So depending on how long you want to be sitting here waiting, I would recommend trying to put as thin of a coat as you can because it absorbs very quickly. Now that it's dry, you can remove the tape. And then now I'm going to add the stencil. The stencils are sometimes tricky because it sometimes wants to glob paint. So my best advice is to use a small foam brush. I like the circular ones. And what you're going to do is just get a little bit of paint onto your foam brush. And I'm going to recommend that you just dab. Like this. You don't want to brush with it because sometimes the paint will want to go underneath the stencil. And that's where you kind of get some messy lines. So my best advice is to not put too much paint onto your foam brush and to just pat it like this. And you're going to keep doing it until your whole stencil is filled in. Now that my stencil is done, you sometimes want to check the edges. Mine end up turning out pretty nicely, but sometimes you might get some rough edges. So if that's the case, that's where you might want to take a brush and take either the black paint to kind of sharpen the edge, or you might want to take some white paint and make it a little bit thicker, depending on what you need. I don't mind that there's this gap here, so I'm going to keep it. But if you want it to be more unison and not have any breaks in your lettering, then I would recommend filling that in at this point too. So next you're going to want to think about what you want to decorate at the top. A lot of times I like to lay out my greenery first before I decide to glue anything down. I also recommend having a hot glue gun, although if you don't, you could always use some tacky glue, although it takes a lot longer to dry, so just keep that in mind. So because I want mine to be more of a fall wreath, I'm going to add some eucalyptus and some fall leaves. And right now I'm just laying them on my board to see how I might want them to lay. And I also have some pumpkins, so I'm going to decide how I might want these to lay on here. I'm kind of thinking I might put them right here in the center. Now I did have ribbon as well, and often, I'm not really good at ribbons, but you could always tie it in a bow. There are like some fancy ways of doing this. I do not know how to do those things. Another option, which is what I used on this piece, is instead of putting on a bow, I kind of had it lay in the background, and I might actually do that for this as well. So to get started, I actually might start with the ribbon because I'm going to have that in the background, and then I'm going to layer each greenery piece on top. So before I start putting the greenery on, I do want to attach my hanging device. And so what I'm going to do is place it through the hole. And you can either, you can either have it hang, you can tie a knot at the bottom, or you can tie a knot at the top. I'm gonna do a top because that's just the easier route. And then I can just cut off the excess string. And then you're gonna decide how long you want it to hang. I'm not gonna wanna use all of this. So once I put the string in, I'm going to kind of decide how tall do I want this to be. And then knot from there. And this is where your scissors come in handy. And cut off the excess. So this is how it's going, your device is going to hang. Sometimes I put a little extra hot glue right here just to be safe, so it doesn't unravel at all. And now we're ready for the greenery. So I'm actually going to begin with the ribbon in the background because I'm just going to have it kind of flip back and forth, and this will add kind of a flowy feel to it. I do want to hang above the wood and within it. Glue's getting a little low here. Making do. Be careful if you're using hot glue. I often tend to, especially if you have ribbon like this, because if you push it down on it, you're definitely going to burn your fingers. So just be careful. So I consider this ribbon just like the background, and it's gonna fill in some space. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start putting some of the greenery. Now they have this excess stem here. I'm actually going to take that off. So right here you might see a crease. So I'm gonna fold back and forth on that crease. Now it should come right off. There's one. Two. So that way it makes it a little bit easier. And you might want to kind of fluff out your greenery before you put it on. So knowing that my center is right here, I'm going to keep that in mind. So I'm going to put some greenery right here. Oh, hold that down. This is why the hot glue gun is much more convenient than the tacky glue. Because with the tacky glue, you would have to kind of sit here for a little bit longer and wait for things to dry. This would be a lot longer process. Still effective, but longer process. And then I'm actually going to put my pumpkins in the middle first to see how it looks, and then I'm going to add the final the fall leaves in so that I can see how they're going to lay. So I kind of want these to fold like that. So oopsies. Gives you a little bit of a feel what it looks like so far. And now I'm going to see how this green or this fall leaf will look. Now this is a little bit more bendable, so I'm not going to remove that because it's just not necessary. Now I tend to just like anchor it in one area so that way I can adjust it later. But if you feel more comfortable with kind of gluing it down in different areas, that's fine too. It's not really a wrong way of doing it. It's just a personal choice. So really, once you have finished decorating and you kind of decide all the accessories that you want to add, that is really the last piece to this. So feel free to get as creative as you like, and whatever you have with you, please feel free to use, and I hope you enjoy. But this is how the finished product ends up looking like. So it's something simple but cute, and you made it yourself. And what I do sometimes is I will do the back side as well, so I can kind of flip it and have different sayings, but to each their own, and I hope you enjoyed.